Hello, besties. How are you today? How are you doing? You're welcome back to my channel, Easy Sewing with Tech. So, if you're seeing this channel for the very first time, my name is Taiwo. So, today's tutorial will focus on how I drafted the pattern that was used to make this gorgeous three-part corset top. So, the sewing part will be uploaded soon. So, ensure that your post notification bell is turned on so as to get notified when I post it, okay? And if you're yet to subscribe, now is the time to do so, okay? Please hit that subscribe button, like this video, share it, okay? To enable this video get recommended to as many people as possible, okay? So it is important. Now, to everyone coming across the channel for the very first time, you're welcome. Thank you for stopping by. It's so good to have you here. You will love it here. And to all of my returning subscribers, you all are the real MVP. Thank you for your love and support. I do not take it for granted. I appreciate you also so much. Now let's get started. I'll be starting out with the front pattern first. So here I'm just going to put in all of my vertical measurements. I'm going to label down my center front, my side front, up there I have my start point. That's where I'm going to start on my measurement from. Then I have the chest line, I have the bust point, I have the under bust, then I have the front half length. Okay, so if you did not know how I come about all of this, then my video on how to take accurate body measurement and how to draft the basic bodies will be helpful. The link will be in the description box. Okay, now starting from the bust point line, I'll go ahead and put my bust span measurements. The bust span that I'm working with today is 7. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5, because we are assuming that that center front is on fold. So I'm going to roll a straight line across like so. After which I'll go ahead and do the under bust tightening, and to do that, from the bust span line I'll go ahead and measure half inch facing towards the center front, and I'll go ahead and measure 1.5 facing towards the side front. Then I will connect these 2 points to the bust point like so. Now, to do the overbust tightening, we need to know where this corset is going to start from. Now, what you want to do is to measure the difference between your bust point and the under bust, and here I have 3.5. So from your bust point, you measure that 3.5 upwards. Now, if you want it a bit more covered, you can go ahead to add half inch to that value that you get. Like here, you can go ahead and use 4, but this 3.5 is fine. You get a perfect round shape. Okay, this 3.5 is fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark that 3.5 all the way, starting from the bust point. Note that I'm starting from the bust point, then I'm going to roll it across. That's where my corset is going to start from. So now that we have our new start point, you can go ahead and do the over bust tightening. So on that new line, I'm going to go ahead and measure out 4.5. Then I'm going to connect it to the bust point like so. After which I would mark out a zero point 0.8 on both sides of the line. I'm going to mark out a zero point 0.8. You can use half inch, you can use 1 inch, but this is 0.8 works fine for me. So I'm just going to mark out a zero point 0.8. Then I'm going to connect it like so all the way to the bust point. Now, the next thing to do is just to give it a curve at that bust point. You don't want a pointy look. You just want to give it a curve like so. Then you want to extend the that leg all the way from the under bust all the way to the half length, all the way to the waist. Now it's time to determine the cleavage depth, how deep you want that center to be. And today I'm working with 7.5. So on that 7.5 mark, you want to go ahead and mark out half inch and mark it all the way to the under bust. Then you want to go ahead and roll a straight line like so, connecting it together. Once you are done with that, the next thing you want to do is to connect the first dart leg all the way to that half inches mark that you marked earlier. So you just want to connect it and you're going to have something like this. So before connecting the second dart leg, you want to go ahead and measure out your bust measurement. And to do this, first note what you have from your center front all the way to the first dart leg. I have 3 there, so I'm just going to move that 3 all the way to the second dart leg and take the bust measurement. Doing this, I have excluded that intake because I'm still going to cut out all those places, okay, and I'm not going to have shortage in my measurements. So from that bust measurement, I'm going to come in by 1.2. So coming in by 1.2 or 1 is fine for busted 5 that I'm working with. If you are working for a larger bust, you can do 1.5 or 2 inches. So I'm going to connect the second dart leg to that 1.2 inches mark like so. Now it's time to draw out the U shape at the underbust for the cup styling. So now to get that perfect U cup, you can go ahead and use your bra cup this way. Just place it this way to get that U cup. Or from that center that way, just follow through with what I'm doing on the screen. You can come up by 1.2 inches and you get that perfect U cup. Because here is very important. It's going to affect the final output of the corset. You don't want to have that place slanted or straight, like it has to be copy, it has to be U-shaped, okay. Before we go ahead and connect the second side, you want to go ahead and take the bust dart. Now if you have been following my tutorial, then you know how to do this. The bust dart is just the difference between the front half length and the back half length. Your front half length is usually longer than your back half length because of the bust bulge. But to understand better, you can check my video on how to take accurate body measurements and how to draft a basic bodice, then you will understand. So the difference that we have here is 2 inches. So now before I put in the 2 inches and take out the bust dart, I'm going to put the under bust measurement and the waist measurement, just like I did for when I was taking the bust measurement. You want to move your tape measure. So after I measured what I have to the first dart leg, I'm going to move it to the second dart leg and I'm going to take the measurement, okay. So now when you are taking this measurement, it's advisable that you at least reduce 1 inches or 2 inches, which is the minimum from your measurement. For example, if your waist measurement is 30, remove 2 inches and you have 28. So it's 28 that you want to put in there to have a little bit of that snatched look, okay. So I'll go ahead and put in that and I'll roll it across. Now to take in the bust dart, from the bust point, I'm going to come down by the difference between the front half length and the back half length, and in this case it is 2 inches. I'm going to come down by that 2 inches. I'm going to mark it on that side line, then I'm going to connect it all the way to the bust point, just as you can see me do in the video. So doing this here is now my bust dart. I'll be closing it later, okay. I'll go ahead and add my allowance as well. I added 2 inches allowance, but when you're making a corset dress, 2 inches allowance is too much. I only added that by default. So at the end of the day, I reduced it to 1.5 because I'm going to use half inch to turn it with the lining. Then at the end of the day, I'm just going to be left with 1 inches allowance. Now I'll just go ahead and close the bust dart like so. You just want to fold in that 2 inches line and make it to match up with the bust point line. So do not mind the fact that that center is bulging. It's because we did not cut through the dart line, and I intentionally did not cut through it because I still want you to see how it's going to look when I'm done, and because I still want to show you something when I'm drafting the back. So now I'm going to take my black up again and I'm going to make sure that it matches up with the side where the cup is starting from. Remember that 1.2 inches that we marked earlier. I'm going to make sure that it matches up with that side and the under bust. Then I'm just going to connect it and have that copy U shape. This is what we have so far. The only thing left to do is to alter this cup style into a 3-part corset cup style, okay. So I won't be cutting it out yet. Once I'm done cutting out the back, because this is something I want you to note, then I'm going to come back to the front, cut it out, then we alter this cup style into a 3-part corset. So here is my back pattern. I'm gonna have to put in my vertical measurement. That's the center back, that is the side back, so that is the chest line, that is the bust point. You don't need the other bust, and that is the waistline. The first thing I'll be doing here is I'll go ahead and put in the bust measurements, and I'll go ahead and put in the waist measurements, and I will add my sewing allowance. Now it's time to alter the center back into the loop design, so you can work with any loop design you want. So for the purpose of today's tutorial, I'll be measuring 1.5 from the center back. Then I'm just going to measure 1.5 at the waist also, and just rule a straight line. So you know that when this is open, it means I have removed 3 inches from the measurement at the back. It means the space that I'm going to have at the back would be 3 inches wide. You can choose to make the upper part wider than the lower part. For example, you can go ahead and measure 2 inches at the upper part, that's at the chest line, then measure out 1 inch at the waistline. And I'll connect it to the dotted line just to show you what I'm saying. You can go ahead, you can go with the design as well. But I won't be going with with this design. I'll be going with the one where I marked with the blue marker earlier. So that is where I'm going to have my loop. You can make the space in yours wider. You can make yours 4 inches wide. It means you are going to measure out 2 inches on fold and not 1.5 like I did. Okay. So from the chest line at the center back, I'm going to come down by ½ inch that way. I want the center back to be lower. Then I'm just going to connect it all the way to the chest line. Whatever you do, whatever design you choose for your back, just make sure that the chest line for the front matches up with the chest line for the back. If you decide to come down by 1 inch from the chest line at the front to have like a curved design, make sure that you repeat the same thing for the back. Okay, you want to make sure that it matches up. Okay, and the final thing to alter on this back pattern is just to draft out the waist dart. So I'm just going to come down by 1 inch from the bust point. Then I'm going to measure out the bust span from the center back. Then I'm just going to roll it across. Then I'm going to take out half inch on both sides. That is a total of 1 inches. So I'm going to replace it at the side to my measurement. If not, there will be shortage of measurements. You know how we do it already. So I'm going to replace it at the side. Then I will connect the new waist measurement to the bust measurement. And we are done. So the place I'm going to cut out is where I'm just highlighting with the red marker. Okay, so now before I cut it out, it is important to label the measurement. So I'm going to label the upper part and the lower part so it doesn't get confusing, because depending on your measurement, it can get confusing after cutting it out. Okay, so I'm going to label it, then I'm just going to cut it out. Now I'm going to go ahead to cut out the front also. Then we are going to alter this cup styling into a 3-part corset cup. Now this is what we have. You can go ahead and label that part your center, and here is your side front, even though this one it is easy to recognize. Now to alter this, you just want to close it up this way at the upper part. So you can go ahead and use your paper gum to hold it down there. Now determine how wide you want it to be. Okay, so I'm just going to do a rough sketch with my pencil. At that center, that way I'm going to come down by 1.5, then at the side by 2 inches, because I want it to have a slanted look. Then I later came down by 2 inches and I add a straight look, but I prefer that slanted look. So I came down by 1.5 at the center, then 2 inches at the side. Now that I'm fine with what I have, I'm going to use my marker to make the line more pronounced. Then I'm going to cut it out. Oh, so before I cut it out, I'm just going to go ahead and label it. So I'm going to label the upper parts 1, 2, and 3. So my 3 parts cup is now ready. So now I'm just going to cut it out and show you what I have. Now this is the final outcome. Our pattern is ready. So if your pattern look like this, then you're 50% sure that your corset is going to come out nice. Okay, now that will be all for today. So in my next tutorial video, I'm going to show you how to transfer this pattern to fabric, where to add the necessary allowance, the places you need to notch to make sewing easier. Then we're also going to join it together. We are going to sew it, okay? So you do not want to miss it. So you want to put on the post notification if you are yet to do so to get notified when I post it, okay? So now if you enjoy this tutorial, if you find it helpful and detailed, please give it a thumbs up, okay? And if you're yet to subscribe, please do so, okay? Now is the time to do so. You can also follow me on my Instagram page, okay, at Easy Sewing with Tyke. You can also connect with me in the comment section. Let me know what you think, okay? So till I see you in my next video, bye.